Welcome back everybody to another a new deck profile, and this time it is SUSHIP. And like you have seen, I think from the title of the video, I topped yesterday with this SUSHIP deck list. I went 3-in-1, where against the first matchup was a friendly matchup against a good friend of mine playing Black Wings. I 2-0'd him. Then the next match was against Mikanko Libromancer, a very good player at our locals that only plays Synchro/Ritual decks. He's a very good player. Then the third matchup was against Traptrix. I lost. I went 2-1 for that Mikanko player. I lost the first one and won the last, the second and the third one. Against Traptrix, I lost 0-2. The first matchup was like, yeah, it sucked. I did not have NIBIRU or anything, sadly, and I just bricked with my hand. I just needed one more summon, and that was actually it. Then I could have like OTK'd him and just ruined his life, but sadly it was not the case. And the last matchup was against a Traptrix player again, and I 0-2'd that player. So let's get into the deck profile. As always, I played this deck. I will show you what deck I had, and I will show you what I will put out of the deck and how I would change the deck. So let's get into the main deck first. So of course, in a SUSHIP you play 3 GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI. It's the bread and butter of the deck. It's the second best card you want to see at least one of in your hand, and it's just 2k beat stick if needed to be. Next up is GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI Red. This card is amazing. This card is always this card, always. Except in deck building, luckily. This card has an amazing effect. You can show a GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI, another GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI in your hand. So one of these other 5. Then you can special summon this card. Special summon a GUNKAN card from GUNKAN SUSHIP card from your deck, and then immediately when it's special summoned, overlay them into the Xyz monster you want. So you can have the SHIRAUO, you can have the IKURA, and you have the Uni. And most of the times I go into the Uni for the negate, because this is a more going second deck. I lost every round going first, except against Blackwing, I think. I know he won the dice roll, so I have never won a going first round. I only won going second. So yeah, it's better to make that one, the negation. This guy. I will show him later. And that's actually it. It's an amazing card. This is the #1 card you want to see in your hand. This card is useless. This card is the best. You always want to search it. You always want it in your hand for more place. It's amazing. Next up is a GUNKAN SUSHIP IKURA. IKURA is a 3-of. I play a lot of 3-ofs in this deck because of the fact that you just want to see as many GUNKAN cards in your hand because they have so much playability. When you have a GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI on the field, you can special summon this immediately, so it's an inherent special summon. And then its second effect is a bit weak, but you can excavate the top 3 cards from your deck. If you find a GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI, you can either add it to your hand or special summon it. It's just an extra name. You can go into the one of the powerful Xyz monsters. This card is very strong, but that's mostly it. Next up is GUNKAN SUSHIP SHIRAUO. This card is pretty good. It's a very strong card. You can special summon this card when you have GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI on the field, or has it as a material of an Xyz monster. That's a very cool card, or a cool effect. Then when this card is on the field, you can show one GUNKAN monster in your hand, special summon that card, and then you can put on top of your deck a GUNKAN SUSHIP card. GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARIs Yes, from the graveyard or deck on top of the deck. Up to 3, I think. Just leave. No, any number of GUNKAN SUSHIP SHARI. So it can be 6, it can be 3. You can put it on top of your deck. So that when you say when you have SHARI in hand, activate effects, you special summon this card, put on top SHARI, SUSHIP SHARI red, overlay effect, draw, search, right? But I will show you that all later. So this is a very strong card. It has a good, a great effect. Next up is a very strong card in the deck. It's GUNKAN SUSHIP Uni. It is an amazing card. It's very strong. What it does, you can review from your hand a SHARI. Then you can special summon this card. And you can special summon the SHARI if you want to. Don't have to. Then you can target a SUSHIP card, a SUSHIP monster you control, and either make it level 5 or 4. So if you did special summon this card, you can make this one 5, go into the Xyz, the 5 Xyz. You can make it 4 and have it for more 4 plays. And then when the level is changed, you can add to your hand a 1 SUSHIP SHARI from your deck to your hand. That is the amazing part, just to get a SUSHIP red in your hand. It's very crazy. Keep in mind, you can show every SUSHIP card. So when you show any card that isn't SHARI, you have to put this card back into the deck. So you have to keep that in mind. This is a very strong card. It gives you way more extra ways to get to red. I love it. Those were the monsters, so let's get into the hand traps. I only play 6, and one of the 6 is NIBIRU, the Primal Being. I love this card. I have seen this card yesterday 11 times. 11 times, it's crazy. I always have like 2 in my hand, sadly. So maybe I should only play like 2, because I see them a lot, and I don't want to have 2 of them in my hand. But at least it came up against the Blackwing player to use them all too. Because I was going first, so I did again. I think I went first, yeah. And I opened to NIBIRU. So he played, I NIBIRU'd him once, and he played again, I NIBIRU'd him twice the next turn. It was something special. The effect of NIBIRU says, well, it's a hand trap, so I will always put the card on the screen. On your right, so you can read it. It's a very strong hand trap, but most of the people know it. The last 3 monsters are 3 Ash Blossoms and Joint String. In my locals there is a lot of branded, so yeah, this card is amazing. It stops a lot of plays, stops a lot of decks. And for instance, if you have a lot of engine cards, like a lot of SUSHIP cards in your hand, and 1 Ash, you can probably OTK the branded player. it's crazy. This deck has so much OTK potential. It is very crazy, but it cannot play through NIBIRU. So next up, okay, I have to the spells. GUNKAN SUSHIP Yard, Seaside Super Spot. Okay, I'm not going to read this card. I'm not going to explain this card. I will put it on your right. That's here for you, and you can read it yourself because this card does so much, yet so little. It's crazy. The first effect, that's a good effect, that when you special summon or normal summon a SUSHIP monster, I'm going to explain it anyways, you can put on top of your deck any SUSHIP card, so that's cool. So whenever, for instance, you normal summon, you can do it. Or whenever you special summon this card, you can chain link 1, chain link 2. To put a card on top of the deck and immediately draw it. If you at least have a SUSHIP SHARI on top of the Xyz monster. And the other effect is useless and it will never come up. Next up is this card that I am going to explain, but I have changed it. Or we really want to change it. It's Unexpected Die. Unexpected Die is just an extra card that you can use to get into your SHARI on the field. Because when you have it on the field, when you have no monsters, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower normal monster from your deck. So it's just something extra. It's not an amazing card, but it does something, and it's not once per turn. But you keep in mind you can't have any monsters. So for instance, if they ash this, it's fine. You can still do it again if you open 2. You don't want to, but you never know. But this next card is crazy. Painful Decision is an amazing card. This is definitely a 2-of card in your hand, in your deck. It's crazy, but I only have 1, sadly. I will definitely upgrade this and put out 1 unexpected die. Because this card is so crazy. This card says you can send to the graveyard, so keep in mind if you can't send to the graveyard, you can't. 1 level 4 or lower normal monster, and then add to your hand a monster with the same name. That means you can activate or add the red, and the red does so many crazy things. This card is amazing. It's an amazing opening card. Sadly, a lot of people know it's crazy and it's getting ash blossomed, so that's very sad for me. Next up is Instant Fusion. Instant Fusion is just here for more level 4 monsters to get in more into your extra deck and make some cards or maybe some SUSHIP cards to just get their effects or the draw, just for something extra. It's just more engine cards. The same goes for the next card, that's Ready Fusion. It just does the same thing. It just summons a 4 or lower normal monster that is fusion monsters from your deck. You can use for more effects. Next up is just this is just what I just played. It's triple Tactic Talents. It's just a good card. I never actually got to use it, sadly, but the idea is mostly if they ash your Painful Decision and you have Tactic Talents, that means you have 2 non-engine cards, because they ash this one, so you can still draw into hopefully 2 more. Or when you go second, you can just activate, take their Rise Heart and make your own Zeus, because this deck does play Zeus. It's an exit. So it just has something extra. Then for the traps, the first one is GUNKAN SUSHIP Daily Special. This card is very cool and very crazy. You only play 1 of this and the field spell because they're not that great and they are searchable. I actually want to play 2 of this card because it in the grind game it's such a cool and crazy card. So what this says is you can review 3 monsters from your deck, GUNKAN monsters from your deck, and your opponent chooses 1 of them and that one goes to your hand. But when you review a SUSHIP SHARI in your hand, you can choose the monster. That's pretty cool. It's not that great, it's not that strong, but it is pretty cool and gives you more plays for the next turn because it's more of a grind. If you can't OTK, you have to grind it out with Zeus, with their negations, with some trap cards that I have put in that I will show you. Yeah. And the second effect is you can activate the second effect not with in the same turn you activate the first effect, so keep that in mind. You can banish this card and then put 3 SUSHIP cards, or target 3 SUSHIP cards from your extra deck, put them into the deck, in the 3 monsters in the graveyard, put them back into the deck and then draw 1 card. I mostly use it to recycle this bad boy, or and the SUSHIP SHARI Reds, because they are very strong. It's just to put back some pieces that you have lost, and then draw just an extra draw, because why not, right? Next up are some trap cards that I like. So what I did was I made this deck for going first-ish, and then having some hand traps for backup control. But like I said, I only lost every going first matchup, and so I think just going second is just the play. But the trap cards I have put in are 3 D-barriers. This card is just crazy. It just shuts down all the decks. Just keep in mind that when you coexist, your monsters also are negated if they are on the field. So that's just sadly not that great, but it's still a strong card. Very crazy. So next up are the 3 strongest cards in the deck, evenly matched. Everybody plays this card. This card should be banned in my opinion, or at least it has to be dealt with on another level or way. This card is very strong. You're just what you're doing is you just activate evenly matched and then you go into the grind game. So these cards are still great for that. But that means that you have 2 cards, and that means you only have 3 cards for SUSHIPs or anything else. So that's a bit sad. But evenly matched, it's a very strong card. People hate this card. Then as last, this was a deck card that I will put in the side deck. It's the Grave of Super Ancient Organism. This card is very cool. Against Branded, it's very strong. But sadly, Traptrix is meta, and like I said, this card, by the way, won me the game against Blackwing, so it's cool. But I'm going to put this card into the side deck, and maybe same for D-Barrier, and then make some more spots for going second cards that are maybe stronger, get some more engine or anything. So yeah, it's a very cool card. The card says, by the way, level 6 special summon, level 6 or higher special summon monsters on the field. The player cannot activate their effects, nor they cannot attack, nor can they activate their effects. So it affects the player. So they can't even send things for cost. They can't attack or just something else. It's just they are just dead cards. So I played today. I just played a Branded player, and sadly I didn't have any cards, but this card kicked his ass. But I think this card is way better going into the second deck, because even drawing it's crazy. But I will in the side deck I will just play 2, because most of the times I draw 2 for some reason. I don't like. These were 40 cards for the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So in the extra deck we have 1 GUNKAN SUSHIP Unique Class Super Dreadnought. Yes, it's a mouthful. This card is very cool, very crazy. I think about playing 2, but in SUSHIPs your extra deck is very clunky, but there are ways to play around it. So this card says every Xyz GUNKAN SUSHIP card has the same effect, that they gain extra effects on summon when you have used certain materials. So when you use SHARI, they all say you can draw a card, and then with the other cards, like this card requires Uni, and then it can of course draw a card, and then it gains the ability to attack directly. So that's an interesting card. His main effect that is very strong but also very clunky, because it's a clunky deck. This card in your main phase or your opponent's battle phase, he can negate face-up cards for always, up to the number of special summoned monsters, GUNKAN Xyz monsters, from the extra deck. So it can be 3, it can be 2, most of the times it's just 1. But even going first, this is a very strong card against evenly matched. So that's very cool. It's a very strong card. I'm thinking about 2, but most of the times you make this plus the trap searcher, search the trap if you already have the feud spell, or vice versa. And then you have like 2 negates, right? But 2 cards negates on the field. And keep in mind, they're always negated for always. They will, if they have a field spell or just another spell card or a monster, they are negated for always. Next up is 2 GUNKAN SUSHIP SHIRAUO Class Carrier. This card does the same thing. If it has a SHARI, it just draws 1. And then we have a SHIRAUO. You can search a GUNKAN spell or trap card. So you can search the field spell or the trap card. It's a very strong card overall. But his second or his main effect, if he doesn't have the other effects, his main effect is that when you control the field spell, GUNKAN SUSHIP monsters special summons from the extra deck cannot be destroyed by card effect. Sorry. And they all gain attack equal to their defense when you have the field spell. So keep that in mind. And that's actually it. It's not that much, but it's just something extra, you know. So this one gains 250 extra, so it becomes 2450. This one becomes 34, and the other one becomes 25. So it is just something, right? Next up is a very strong card. It's GUNKAN SUSHIP IKURA class Dreadnought. This card is very crazy. Of course, when summoned, it can draw a card, or when you have an IKURA on it, it can attack. It gains the ability to attack twice. That's very crazy. And his second ability, this is the OTK potential ability, is whenever an Xyz monster, a GUNKAN Xyz monster that is special summoned from the extra deck, deals damage, you can destroy a card on the field. So what it does is when you make this card, and you have this card on the field, this card can attack directly, of course. So you attack directly, destroy the, so say for instance a NIBIRU token, and then you can attack twice. So that's cool. Most of the time you just flood the board, because this deck cannot do that. So that will be an easily OTK. This is a very strong card. You can play one of these instead of maybe the other at rank 5, but you don't, against CHIMERA, you don't want these cards to be pushed. Next up are some more rank 4s. It's number 101 Silent Honor Arc. This card is pretty strong. I have made it a bunch of times. I have stolen Zeuses, I have stolen tokens, I have stolen hired monsters, I have stolen a lot. It's a very strong card. His second ability to protect himself is also cool. And most of the times I just steal a card, attack, make Zeus. Very cool, very strong. Or when I can't make Zeus because I don't attack, I just play Drill Driver Vespanato. This card is an interesting card. This card always has, how do you say it? Piercing damage. It is 25 on the body, and whenever this card is destroyed, you can special summon one level 5 or lower monster from your graveyards. It's just something extra, you know, that whenever you go into attack the opponent, and then just have something to, when they destroy it, you just have something extra, you know. Keep in mind you can't Zeus on top of this card, so that's a bit sad. Next up is Time Thief Redoer. This card is insane. It's very strong. You do not always make this card, but whenever you just have a clunky hand, you have only one SUSHIP monster on the field, and you can make another 4, you can make a Redoer. So you always have a monster on the field, you can banish it, or you can just take some cards from their deck. Yeah, I think this card deserves a great spot in here. It's very strong. Next up is the, here he is, or Divine Arsenal Double A Zeus Sky Thunder. This card is crazy. Put 2 on this deck. It's amazing. This deck is this card is so obviously strong. This won me the game, my second game against the Mikenko player on game 2. It's Zeus. Buy it while you can. I think about maybe buying the ulti. I have to know how expensive. Next up for the Link monsters. This is just a flexed card, but I really like it. Is DUELITTLE CHIMERA. This card you can make it with two fire monsters, and it says all fire monsters gain 500 attack and defense, and all water monsters lose 500 attack and defense. And whenever this card is destroyed, you can take one fire monster from your graveyard and put it back into your hand. So it's just like Redoer, say for instance you have a uni and another fire monster, so you can't go into 4 because maybe they negated it or you just made something 5 and you never know. You can still make this card and just have some recursion for next turn, because hopefully your hand traps or your battle traps will prevent them from OTK. Next up are just the Nightmare cards, because they are very strong. One is Nightmare Phoenix. It just pops cards, pops back row. It's just something extra. It's also a fire, so Ghost Match doesn't lock you into it. You can destroy Ghost Match. If you wanted to make Zeus, yeah, nothing more, nothing less. It's Nightmare Phoenix. What do you want me to say? Next up is Nightmare Unicorn. It is Nightmare Unicorn. What do you want me to say? Remove every card. A player made Zeus. I normal summoned SHIRAUO, or no, SUSHIP SHARI. He didn't Zeus make into Nightmare Unicorn, and I got rid of his monster. I did lose because I didn't have any cards, I didn't have any recursion, I had nothing, but it was what it was. Next up is Access Code Talker. Never summon this card. It's just something extra that when they think, oh, they have access code, let me get rid of it instead of the Zeus. But luckily I don't have to play against Kashtira because it's a boring ass deck. You can obviously cut this. I think about cutting it, but it's just something. Next up are just the super polymers or the instant fusion targets and the other fusion targets. This one is just Dark Flare Dragon. It's just a rank, and I had it, and it's a cool looking card, so why not play it? First, I thought it was fire, so you can use DUELITTLE CHIMERA, but it's not fire. There is no level 4 or lower fire monster. Sadly, normal monster, so it's sad. And next up is Rare Fish. It just does the same thing. It's just a 4, nothing more, nothing less. That's it. It's just there for more plays if you want. So this was the side deck, extra deck. So let's go into the side deck. Because this deck was more going, I built it more going first-ish. Or I have the ability to go first. I have put in some side deck cards for going second and some for going first. So first up, I have put in one Harpy's Feather Duster. It's just back row destruction. It's a cool card. I used this against a Traptrix player, and he had Anakampa on in the hand, but he didn't have a Traptrix monster. But I wanted him to activate Anakampa because I had triple tactics talent, but he couldn't use it, so I was so salty. I was not salty, but I was like, damn sadness. Next up is 3 Lightning Storms, because you're still going second. You can, if you're playing against a lot of trap decks are in the meta right now. I have a lot of trap hate, as you can see, and it can get rid of some monsters. So most of the time I just side out 3 cards and then put in these 3 cards. So maybe you can even cut this down to 2, because you always play these. If you cut down 3, so you have some more space in the extra deck. So you can, for instance, put in DARKEIRE Cowboy and swap it into your side deck. It's still something, right? For going into games, because you still have some grind. Next up is 2 Water Kaijus, the Gamma Seals. These are just Kaijus. If they summon some monsters like Traptrix monsters or anything else, it's still an interesting, strong card. Just they're more there for the towers. I also put in 1 Alpha, the Master of Beast. I just like to have 2 Kaijus and 1 Alpha, so that I can Kaiju them, Alpha them, and hopefully maybe get my Kaiju back so I can Kaiju him again and Alpha him again. It's a very cool deck. I like him. Next up are some trap cards for going first, like Rivalry of the Warlords. It is just something, mostly for against branded players also, but I think I will cut out the Evenlies and for these trap cards, for the Grave of the Super Ancient Orient, because This card is way better against branded. This card is pretty strong against trap tricks too. So maybe go 2-2. So you have like, of course you put these cards out, and you have some in your main deck. It is possible, but I think trap tricks will die down later on in like a few months, and then I'm going to play trap. Just a heads up. The last 2 trap cards in my side deck are just also going first cards. They are just anti-spell fragrance. Sometimes we have a Valence player. So it is more for him. If you're going first, it's still something to hold them back, and then they have to set the cards, and then you can Zeus them. It's a very strong card. Yeah, it's okay. Never really sided it because you go second a lot of the time, so maybe I have to change that a bit. But it's still a strong card. And as last, I hate the trap tricks at the moment, so I have put in 3 Dankoseka. You just side out every trap card that you want to set, right? And then put in 3 Dankoseka, 2 Lightning Storms, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and you'll be Gucci. This card says that, well, I do not control any spell or trap cards on a set or activated spell or trap cards on my field. Neither player can activate set, spell, or trap cards, and they cannot even activate spell or trap cards. So it's just a floodgate for people that want to activate spell or trap cards. I did play 1 Jinzo for fun, but this was way better. Against the second time against the last trap tricks player, I played this card and he couldn't do anything. He didn't have Holotea in graveyard. It was crazy. He couldn't summon back Boudica to banish it. Great card for the trap decks at the moment. Keep in mind the side deck is just something to have for your locals. Same as the Ash Blossoms. I get a lot of branded players, so why not just play Ash, right? So this was the deck. I went 3-1. I got 4th place with this deck on my locals. It's just such a cool deck. I love it. Maybe I'm going to play some more of it. I have a lot of decks I want to play and still try out. I have bought some spicy deck that is very bad, but I will let you show it all later on. So thank you all for watching. Sorry that it was a long video as always, but I like to explain the cards and the deck what it does, so you can play around.